Okay, so you want to own a coffee shop. The smell of fresh espresso, the sound of steaming milk, regulars lined up every morning, laptops open at every table, Instagram-worthy latte art, a cozy neighborhood gathering place that generates revenue from sunrise to sunset. You build a loyal customer base, maybe expand to multiple locations, create a lifestyle business doing something you love. Sounds like the perfect business. And honestly, from the outside, it really does look that way. But here is what people who actually invest in this business know, and what most people romanticizing coffee shop ownership never tell you. A coffee shop is not a passive lifestyle business with comfortable margins. It is a low-margin, labor-intensive, inventory-perishable food service operation that happens to serve coffee. The revenue per transaction is real. The rent on a premium corner location is real, in ways that most people never see coming. Let's start at the beginning. When people say they want to own a coffee shop, they are usually picturing one of three distinct models. The third-wave specialty coffee shop, single-origin beans, pour-over methods, highly trained baristas, premium pricing, the format targeting coffee enthusiasts and charging $5 to $7 for a 12-ounce latte. The neighborhood cafe model, comfortable seating, all-day food menu, coffee plus breakfast and lunch, attempting to be a community gathering space, not just a caffeine dispensary. And the grab-and-go espresso bar, minimal seating, high-volume turnover, office building or commuter location, optimized for speed and convenience over experience. Each format has completely different economics, different capital requirements, different margin structures, and different paths to profitability. For this analysis, we are focusing on the neighborhood specialty cafe, the 1,200 to 1,800 square foot format with 20 to 35 seats that represents what most aspiring coffee shop owners actually envision when they picture themselves in this business. Here is something that surprises people when they first research this industry. The coffee shop market is simultaneously growing and brutally oversaturated. The number of coffee shops in the United States has grown from roughly 21,400 in 2006 to over 38,000 in 2024. Starbucks alone operates over 16,000 U.S. locations. Add Dunkin' with 9,000 plus, Pete's, Caribou, Dutch Brothers, Tim Hortons, and thousands of regional chains and independents, and you are competing in a market where consumer choice is overwhelming and differentiation is increasingly difficult. Consumer coffee consumption has grown, but it has also shifted. More people brew premium coffee at home using single-serve machines, French presses, or pour-over methods. The pandemic accelerated this trend. The customer who used to stop at a coffee shop 5 days per week now comes 3 times and brews at home the other 2 days. Traffic patterns have permanently changed. The morning commuter rush that drove 40% to 50% of coffee shop revenue has been reduced by remote work. Midday and afternoon traffic is more important now, but also more competitive. That is the market environment you are entering. Not impossible, but far more challenging than it was a decade ago. Now let's talk about what it actually costs to open a coffee shop from scratch. The first and often largest decision is location. A coffee shop lives or dies on foot traffic, visibility, parking, and proximity to your target customer. A corner location in a walkable neighborhood with 5,000 plus people passing daily, easy parking, and good street visibility is ideal. That location commands premium rent. Commercial rent for 1,200 to 1,600 square feet in a strong urban or dense suburban location typically runs $3,500 to $8,500 per month, or $42,000 to $102,000 annually. In high-cost cities like San Francisco, New York, or Seattle, that can easily reach $10,000 to $15,000 plus per month. Many leases are structured with percentage rent, the greater of base rent or a percentage of gross sales, typically 8% to 12%. You are signing a lease, usually 5 to 10 years, with personal guarantees. That fixed cost runs whether you serve 50 customers or 500. Build-out costs are substantial. You are converting raw commercial space into a functioning cafe. This includes plumbing for sinks, espresso machines, and ice makers, often requiring significant rough-in work if the space was not previously food service, $8,000 to $25,000. Electrical upgrades. Espresso machines require 220V dedicated circuits, plus outlets for grinders, refrigeration, and equipment, $6,000 to $18,000. HVAC modifications to meet health code ventilation requirements for food service, $5,000 to $15,000. Flooring, typically commercial-grade tile or polished concrete that can handle spills and heavy traffic, $4,000 to $12,000. Wall finishes, paint, tile backsplash behind the bar, branding elements, $5,000 to $15,000. Countertops and bar construction, the front-facing customer counter and the back prep areas, $12,000 to $30,000 depending on materials and length. Lighting, both ambient and task lighting meeting health code requirements, $6,000 to $15,000. Signage, exterior illuminated sign plus interior menu boards, $8,000 to $20,000. Total build-out costs for a 1,400 square foot coffee shop typically run $80,000 to $180,000 depending on the condition of the space, local construction costs, and the level of finish you are targeting. A bare-bones functional build might come in at $70,000. A high-end design with custom millwork, designer lighting, and premium finishes can easily exceed $200,000. Now comes equipment, the machinery that actually produces the coffee. This is where many first-time owners vastly underestimate costs. A commercial espresso machine, the centerpiece of your operation, ranges wildly in price. A quality 2-group semi-automatic machine from a reputable manufacturer like La Marzocco, Nuova Simonelli, or Sinesso costs $12,000 to $25,000. A 3-group machine for higher volume runs $18,000 to $35,000. You can buy cheaper machines for $5,000 to $8,000, but they lack the consistency, durability, and steam power needed for high-volume professional use. Commercial coffee grinders, you need at least 2, one for espresso and one for drip coffee, $800 to $2,500 each for quality burr grinders like Malkanig or Baratza commercial models. Drip coffee brewers, typically a dual or triple airpot brewer system, $2,500 to $5,000. Cold brew system or toddy setup if you offer cold brew, $400 to $1,500. Blenders for smoothies or blended drinks, $400 to $1,200 for commercial Vitamix or Blendtec units. Refrigeration, under-counter refrigerators for milk, a walk-in cooler if you have significant food service, or reach-in commercial refrigerators, $6,000 to $18,000 total depending on configuration. Freezer for backup product and ice cream if offered, $2,000 to $5,000. Ice machine, essential for ice drinks, $2,500 to $6,000 for a unit that produces 200 to 400 pounds per day. A 3-compartment sink required by health code, $1,500 to $3,500. Water filtration system for the espresso machine and brewing, $1,200 to $3,000. Point-of-sale system, modern cloud-based POS with integrated payment processing, inventory management, and customer loyalty features, $3,000 to $8,000 in hardware plus $80 to $200 per month in software fees. Display case for pastries and food, $2,500 to $6,000. Shelving and storage, $2,000 to $5,000. Smallwares, cups, lids, stirrers, napkins, portafilters, pitchers, thermometers, tampers, knockboxes, $3,000 to $7,000. Total equipment costs for a fully outfitted specialty coffee shop typically run $50,000 to $110,000 depending on the scale and quality of equipment. Add furniture, tables, chairs, bar stools, lounge seating if you are creating a gathering space, $15,000 to $40,000 depending on seating capacity and quality. Initial inventory, coffee beans, milk, syrups, pastries, food items, supplies, $4,000 to $8,000. Security deposits, first month, last month, and security on the lease plus utility deposits, $12,000 to $30,000. Licenses and permits, business license, health permit, food handler certifications, music licensing for ASCAP and BMI if you play music, $2,000 to $5,000. Initial marketing, website, social media setup, grand opening promotions, $3,000 to $10,000. Working capital to cover operating losses for the first 3 to 6 months while you build customer base, $20,000 to $50,000. Total initial investment to open an independent specialty coffee shop, approximately $190,000 to $470,000 depending on location, size, build-out requirements, and equipment choices. Most first-time owners land somewhere in the $240,000 to $350,000 range. That is a substantial capital requirement for a business with notoriously thin margins. Now let's talk about revenue. How does a coffee shop actually make money? A typical specialty coffee shop generates revenue across several categories. Espresso-based drinks, lattes, cappuccinos, americanos, macchiatos, the highest margin items and typically 50% to 60% of total beverage revenue. Drip coffee and pour-overs, lower per cup revenue but very high margins. Roughly 10% to 15% of beverage sales. Cold brew and iced drinks, seasonal but growing category, 8% to 12% of beverage revenue. Non-coffee beverages, teas, chai, hot chocolate, smoothies, about 8% to 12% of beverage sales. Food items, pastries, sandwiches, salads, breakfast items, representing 20% to 35% of total revenue depending on how much you emphasize food. And retail, selling whole bean coffee, mugs, merchandise, typically 3% to 8% of revenue. Let's model daily transactions. A moderately successful neighborhood coffee shop in a decent location serves 200 to 350 customers per day. Let's assume 275 customers daily. The average transaction, blending beverages and food, is $6.50 to $8.50 depending on product mix and pricing. At $7.20 average, that is $1,980 in daily revenue, or roughly $59,400 per month. Across a full year, operating 360 days, that is $712,800 in annual gross revenue. But revenue varies dramatically by day and time. Monday through Friday mornings from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. might represent 35% to 40% of daily revenue. Weekend mornings are strong but spread over a longer period. Afternoons are slower but steady. Evenings depend entirely on whether you have become a study or gathering space. A coffee shop that does $2,400 on a Saturday might do $1,400 on a Tuesday. You build staffing and inventory for the peaks, but you earn revenue on the average. Now we subtract the reality of operating expenses, and this is where the romanticism of coffee shop ownership collides with mathematics. Cost of goods sold, the coffee, milk, syrups, pastries, food ingredients, and cups, is the first major expense. Coffee shops typically operate at 25% to 35% COGS depending on product mix, waste management, and supplier relationships. Beverages have lower COGS, 18% to 25%. Food has higher COGS, 28% to 38%. Blended together, a well-run shop targets 28% to 32% COGS. On $712,800 in annual revenue, at 30% COGS, that is $213,840 in product costs. You are buying coffee beans at $6 to $14 per pound depending on quality, and whether you buy direct trade single origin or commercial blends. A 12-ounce latte uses roughly 18 to 22 grams of coffee, about 30 cents to 60 cents worth of beans, plus 40 cents to 60 cents worth of milk, 15 cents for the cup and lid, for a total COGS of 85 cents to $1.35. You sell that latte for $5 to $6.50. The gross margin is $3.65 to $5.65 per drink, but that margin has to cover everything else. Labor is the largest operating expense, and it is relentless. You need staff during all operating hours, typically 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. or later, 11.5 to 13 hours daily. You need at least 2 people during morning rush, 1 on the espresso machine and 1 on the register and drip coffee. You need coverage for breaks. You need at least 1 person during slower periods. A typical coffee shop employs 6 to 12 part-time baristas plus potentially 1 full-time shift lead or assistant manager. At current wages, which in most markets are $14 to $18 per hour to attract and retain quality baristas, labor costs run 30% to 40% of revenue. On $712,800 in revenue, that is $213,840 to $285,120 annually. If you work full-time in the shop yourself as owner-operator, you can reduce paid labor to 25% to 32% of revenue, but you are trading your own time at below market compensation to achieve that savings. Rent, as discussed, runs $42,000 to $102,000 annually depending on location. As a percentage of revenue, that is 6% to 14%. Most experts recommend keeping rent below 10% of revenue for a coffee shop to be viable, but in high-traffic locations where rent is premium, you are often paying 12% to 15% just for the location advantage. Utilities, electricity for espresso machines, grinders, refrigeration, lighting, HVAC, plus water, gas, and trash, run $800 to $1,800 per month, or $9,600 to $21,600 annually, roughly 1.5% to 3% of revenue. Credit card processing fees, now that 75% to 85% of transactions are cashless, cost 2.5% to 3.5% of revenue. On $712,800, that is $17,800 to $25,000 annually. Equipment maintenance and repairs, espresso machines need regular servicing, grinders need burr replacement, refrigeration units fail, for $1,000 to $10,000 annually, about 0.8% to 1.5% of revenue. Supplies beyond COGS, cleaning supplies, point-of-sale receipt paper, office supplies, $200 to $500 per month, or $2,400 to $6,000 annually. Insurance, general liability, property, workers' compensation, runs $4,000 to $9,000 annually. Licenses and permits, annual renewals, health inspections, music licensing, $1,200 to $3,000. Marketing and advertising, social media ads, local sponsorships, loyalty program costs, $300 to $1,000 per month, or $3,600 to $12,000 annually. Professional services, accounting, payroll processing, legal, $3,000 to $7,000 annually. Point-of-sale software subscriptions, $1,000 to $2,400 annually. Let's add it all up for a coffee shop doing $712,800 in annual revenue. COGS, 30%, or $213,840. Labor with owner working full-time, 28%, or $199,584. Rent, 10%, or $71,280. Utilities, 2%, or $14,256. Credit card fees, 2.8%, or $19,958. Equipment maintenance, 1%, or $7,128. Supplies, 0.6%, or $4,276. Insurance, 1%, or $7,128. Marketing, 1%, or $7,128. Licenses, professional fees, software, 1.6%, or $11,405. Total operating expenses, approximately 78%, or $555,983. That leaves $156,817 in operating profit, or roughly 22% margin. But remember, the owner is working full-time 50 to 60 hours per week, and that labor is embedded in the 28% labor cost. If you value the owner's labor at $55,000 per year, the actual business profit is $101,817. If you finance $200,000 of your initial investment at 8% over 7 years, your annual debt service is approximately $36,800. After debt service, net profit is $65,017. Add back the $55,000 you effectively paid yourself through embedded labor, and total owner compensation is $120,017 for working 55 hours per week, 52 weeks per year. That is $42 per hour for your labor. Reasonable but not exceptional, and only after the business is stabilized and performing at this revenue level. Here is the part that almost no one talks about. It takes 12 to 24 months to reach stabilized revenue. You do not open day 1 serving 275 customers. You start serving 60, then 90, then 140, slowly building as word spreads and habits form. During those first 12 to 18 months, you are often operating at break-even or a loss, burning through working capital while revenue ramps. Now let's talk about what actually happens day to day when you own a coffee shop. You arrive at 5:30 or 6 a.m. before opening to receive deliveries. The milk delivery arrives 3 times per week. The pastry delivery comes daily. You are checking quality, rotating stock, ensuring everything is stored properly. You are prepping for opening, grinding coffee, filling hoppers, checking that machines are up to temperature, setting up the pastry case. You open at 6:30 or 7 a.m. The morning rush starts immediately. You are on the bar making drinks, training a new barista who keeps oversteaming the milk, managing the line of customers, handling a customer complaint about a drink made incorrectly. You are running low on almond milk mid-rush. You are pulling back up from the refrigerator while keeping the line moving. A grinder jams. You clear it, losing 3 minutes of critical rush time. By 10:30 a.m., the rush subsides. You are cleaning, restocking, doing prep work for lunch if you serve food. You are placing orders with suppliers, reviewing yesterday's sales data, checking inventory levels, scheduling staff for next week. You are dealing with a no-show employee, covering their shift yourself or calling others to come in. You are handling a delivery issue. A bag of coffee beans arrived damaged and you need a replacement. The afternoon is slower but steady. You are managing the dining area, clearing tables, engaging with regulars, handling the laptop crowd who have been occupying a 4-top for 3 hours on a single $4 drip coffee. You are balancing customer hospitality with the reality that those tables are not turning and generating revenue. You are preparing for the late afternoon mini-rush when school gets out or workers take afternoon coffee breaks. You are monitoring equipment. The espresso machine is making a strange noise. You are checking pressure gauges, temperatures, deciding whether to call a technician now for $200 or risk it failing mid-service tomorrow. You are managing social media, posting photos, responding to reviews, engaging with the community online. You are dealing with a negative Yelp review from a customer upset about wait time during rush. You are crafting a professional response. You close at 6 or 7 p.m. You are doing end-of-day cleaning, sanitizing surfaces, breaking down the espresso machine for back flushing, counting cash, reconciling the register, reviewing sales for the day. You are taking out trash, mopping floors, setting up for the next morning. You leave at 7:30 or 8 p.m., 13 to 14 hours after you arrived. This is not a lifestyle business. This is a physically demanding, operationally intensive food service job that you own. You are on your feet 10 to 12 hours per day. You are managing people, inventory, equipment, customers, and finances simultaneously. The romantic vision and the operational reality are completely different things. Here is the competitive dynamic that makes this business brutally difficult. You are competing with Starbucks, which has 16,000 plus locations, a mobile app with 30 plus million active users, a loyalty program that drives 55% of U.S. transactions, purchasing power that gets the milk and coffee at prices 20% to 30% below what you pay, and a marketing budget in the hundreds of millions. You are also competing with Dunkin', Peet's, local chains, and dozens of other independent coffee shops within a 2-mile radius. Your competitive advantage has to be something Starbucks cannot replicate. Genuinely superior coffee quality, a unique local community atmosphere and customer relationships, specialty offerings or roasting expertise, or exceptional customer service and personalization. But those advantages are hard to maintain and easy to erode as staff turns over, quality becomes inconsistent, or a new competitor opens closer to your customers. Let's talk about a specific margin killer that catches coffee shop owners off guard: waste and shrinkage. Milk spoils. Pastries go stale and must be discarded. Coffee beans oxidize after opening. A barista makes a drink incorrectly and has to remake it. A customer gets the wrong order and you comp their drink. These small losses add 3% to 6% to your effective COGS. On $712,800 in revenue, That is $21,400 to $42,800 annually in pure waste. Seasonal variability is another challenge. Summer iced coffee demand is high, but hot drink sales drop. Winter reverses that pattern. Holiday months are strong, but January and February are slow. You cannot reduce rent or equipment costs during slow months. Your revenue fluctuates by 20% to 30% month to month, but your fixed costs remain constant. Here is the technology shift that is reshaping the industry: mobile ordering and delivery. Apps like Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub now account for 8% to 15% of sales at many coffee shops. Delivery orders carry commission fees of 20% to 30%. A $6.50 latte generates $1.30 to $1.95 in platform fees. After 30% COGS and the delivery fee, you are left with almost no margin. You participate because refusing delivery means losing visibility and customer access, but every delivery order is marginally unprofitable. Let's run the numbers two ways: best case and realistic case. Best case. You open a coffee shop in a rapidly growing neighborhood with limited competition and strong foot traffic. You invest $280,000 total, financing $130,000 and putting down $150,000 in equity. Your location benefits from new residential development, a nearby university, and excellent street visibility. Your shop ramps quickly, reaching 320 customers per day within 10 months with an $8 average ticket. Annual revenue, $921,600. You execute exceptionally well on labor efficiency at 27%, COGS at 29%, and secure favorable rent at 9% of revenue. Total operating expenses, 76% of revenue. Operating profit, $221,184. After debt service of $22,000 annually, and valuing your labor at $60,000, net profit is $139,184. By year 3, you open a second location using cash flow from the first, achieving operational leverage and building a small local chain. By year 5, your 2 locations generate combined net profit of $240,000, while you transition to more strategic management and less daily operational work. You built a real business with enterprise value and cash flow. Realistic case. You open a coffee shop in a decent but competitive location. You invest $310,000, financing $180,000 and putting down $130,000. Competition is heavier than expected. 3 Starbucks within 1.5 miles, 2 independent shops, and a Dunkin'. Your shop struggles to differentiate. Revenue stabilizes at $620,000 annually, 220 customers per day at $7.75 average. Labor runs at 32% because of inconsistent traffic, making scheduling inefficient. COGS runs at 32% because of waste and smaller order volumes, reducing supplier discounts. Rent is 12% because you needed the location to compete. Total operating expenses, 81% of revenue. Operating profit, $117,800. After debt service of $31,000 and valuing your labor at $55,000, net profit is $31,800. You are working 60 hours per week for total compensation of $86,800 annually, equivalent to $28 per hour. After 3 years of grinding with minimal profit, facing a required $45,000 equipment refresh and declining margins as a new Starbucks Reserve opens nearby, you sell the business for $110,000, losing $20,000 of your initial equity plus 3 years of below-market wages. The difference between those outcomes is not the business model. Both are specialty coffee shops. The difference is location quality, competitive density, execution on operations and labor management, and the operator's ability to build a differentiated customer experience that justifies premium pricing and drives loyalty. The U.S. coffee shop industry generates approximately $47 billion in annual revenue across roughly 38,000 locations. Starbucks controls roughly $20 billion of that. The remaining $27 billion is split among thousands of chains and independents, most operating on single-digit net profit margins. The coffee shop owners who build genuinely profitable businesses are typically those who operate multiple locations, spreading fixed costs and management overhead across revenue streams. Own the real estate, eliminating rent as an operating expense and building equity in appreciating property. Specialize in wholesale roasting or supplying other cafes, diversifying revenue beyond retail, or create genuine destination experiences with unique offerings that command premium pricing and build fanatical customer loyalty. The owners who struggle or fail are almost always those who underestimated the capital required and overestimated stabilized revenue, believed the lifestyle narrative and were unprepared for the physical and operational intensity, entered oversaturated markets without clear differentiation, or could not control labor and cogs enough to generate profit at achievable revenue levels. Coffee shops are real businesses. The margins can work. But the business works only for those who execute operationally at a high level every single day, manage costs relentlessly, build genuine customer loyalty beyond proximity and convenience, and accept that this is a demanding operational business, not a passive lifestyle investment. The espresso machine makes the coffee. It does not run the business.